Can everybody hear me okay? Good, okay. I have an air conditioner running. I didn't know if it was causing an issue.
Okay. We set
I can hear
there.
you.
Hello.
Melissa, can you hear me?
Yes.
I can't hear you.
No?
I can hear.
You're not on mute.
Hang on, let me try something.
I can hear you, Melissa.
Can anybody else hear me?
I can hear you too.
But can you talk? So I don't
Oh,
think I'm
can-
hearing anybody.
Can you hear me?
Hi, Rita.
Hello?
Hi.
What do you think the problem is? Should I sign off?
Yeah, why don't you log
Nod
back
your
in?
head. Hold on. Let me just check one more thing.
Check your
Okay.
microphone. By the mute button, if you hit the little arrow, it gives you options for
I
your
figured it
mic.
out. Never mind.
Good.
All right.
I have my
Very good.
sound turned all the way down.
I've done that.
This is going to be a long meeting. My mind is not all there. Okay. Becky, do I go ahead and open the meeting or do you?
Yes.
Okay. I'm calling to order the meeting of the Shutesbury Selectboard. It's July 5th, 2022, and this meeting is being held via Zoom. So I'll just go through the agenda and then we can get into the meeting itself. First item is to reorganize as we do every year.
Yep.
Then public comment. We have minutes from June 21st and June 27th. At 5:50, we have a meeting with the planning board to appoint associate members. 6:05, annual appointments. And that's a continuation of what we started. 6:15, we're going to be reviewing the ARPA requests that we have received. 6:45, talking about the recycling committee's request for textile and book recycling collection box. Then the web committee at 6:55, 7:10, FERCog inspection program contract. 7:15, police union Teamsters contract, and then town administrator updates. And there is one item that was unexpected that's on the agenda that I'm going to ask to be put on the agenda, which is a request that we got from LWAC to look to our legislators for an earmark for some stormwater study at Lake Wyola. So we'll do that later on in the meeting. Okay, so the first order of business is to reorganize with voting for chair and vice chair. Becky, you want to take
I
this
can
over?
take over for this section.
Okay, great.
So every year, the select board reorganizes and which means selecting a new chair and vice chair, or I mean a chair and vice chair. And so this year we have 3 candidates potentially, all 3 select board members. So I will, as the town official who's not on the board, I will open this up for nominations to select board chair.
I'll make a nomination that Rita continues to be our chair. If she would like to.
I'll
It's been so much
second.
fun.
I'll second that.
You do wonderfully at it.
Thanks.
I know I really do a good job at that, don't I?
Okay, I accept the nomination.
Okay.
So I nominate Melissa to be the vice chair.
Thank you.
I
Rick.
second that.
Okay, I will accept that as well.
Thank you, all 3. So I think we have to proceed to an election. So all those in favor of of electing Rita as chair of the Shutesbury Select Board, please say aye.
Thank you, Sonia Line.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye.
Okay, and all those In favor of of voting Melissa as vice chair, please say aye.
Carol,
Stalker,
aye.
aye.
Thank you,
Stalker,
Sonia, aye.
second. Yeah, whatever. Yes.
Okay.
We're out of routine already.
I know, really.
Okay,
I don't know
so
what
I'll
to
turn
do.
the meeting back over to Rita.
Okay, thanks, Becky. All right, so the next item on the agenda is public comment. I see a couple of people here who are not part of the select board and staff. So if there's anybody from the public who would like to make a comment now, please indicate so by raising your hand, the hand feature. Do we know everybody? There's a David here. I'm not sure. Linda, do you know who that is?
It's Mary David.
Oh, Mary David. Okay.
As far as as far as I know, it's Mary David.
Okay, good. So Mary, Gail, Mary Ann, any of the three of you have comments that you want to make during this public comment period? No. Okay, you're all set. I'm just going to ask, I don't know, Melissa, I know you've done this for me before. If you keep track of the time for some, I don't have my phone here, and I usually use that to make sure I'm kind of staying on track for time. So if you could just remind me, because I'd like to know where we are time-wise. Thank you. Okay, so hearing no public comments, then what I think we will do is move ahead to review the minutes of June 21st and June 27th, 2022, that Linda has prepared and forwarded to everybody. So do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of June 21st?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion, any edits, additions, deletions to those minutes? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye. And do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of June 27th, 2022?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion, additions, deletions to those minutes? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye. Okay, so Melissa, where are we? Because we
are at 5:39, so we are
okay.
a little ahead for the meeting with the planning board.
Okay,
that's
great.
at 5:50.
Okay. Do we want to move up the LWAC request then, Becky, as unanticipated
Yes,
item?
yes.
Okay, so the background here is I was forwarded a draft letter to Senator that would go to Senator Comerford and Representative Blais that LWAC essentially was asking the select board to submit a request for an earmark in the FY23 supplemental budget. And the current session ends on July 31st. So this is, there's not a lot of time, but the earmark would be for $350,000 from the Commonwealth's Land and Water Conservation Fund. And the request from LWAC is they are looking for state assistance to continue to address the more comprehensive stormwater management efforts within the Lake Wyola Basin area, including work on town roads, private roads, and DCR state facilities to improve runoff conditions. And not knowing a whole lot about the kind of the Land and Water Conservation Fund, I don't have a whole lot to add to this, but it does appear that this request is really, similar in some respects, or kind of has a crossover to our MVP application, which was submitted back in the spring, which we've not heard anything about yet. Is that correct, Becky?
Yes.
We haven't had any indication. So Eric, I know you serve on LWAC, and maybe you could talk, just kind of give us a little bit of background about how this idea was generated, and whether or not there was any indication from our legislators about the availability of this funding, like how this number came up. And
I think it was, to be honest, it was just a number that's just picked out of a hat. And I think that Terry, who's on the LWAC, I can't forget his last name, Terry. I can't think of his last name. He's on LWAC. He's familiar with the process, and basically just said, hey, every year the state gives away money from this fund. It gives away grants money from this land water conservation fund. We should see if we should just ask if we can get it. And it seemed like to me, well, why not? I mean, I don't think it precludes any of the other things that we've asked for. That would be my sense of it anyway. I think it was just really sort of a shot in the dark in a sense.
So do they have funding rounds? Is that, or is this something that we're assuming there's money left over because they didn't expend it in a funding round? Or Becky, are you familiar at all with this?
No, I'm not familiar with this. And was this recommended by anybody at FERCog or just Terry? Terry Smith.
Terry Smith, that's right. Terry and David Green also knew something about it. He was speaking in favor of it as well. And I honestly don't probably know more than you do, or maybe even less. It's about what it seemed to me like it was a case where they asked us, or they asked me, on the LWAC representative, to submit this to the select board to see if we would just write a letter of support saying, if the money's out there, we would like some of it. If there isn't, I guess there isn't. I mean, that's kind of how it was left, I think.
So what is the scope of the work they want to do with $350,000 generally? What objectives?
Well, I mean, I think you could easily spend, I think they want to do upgrades, they want to do upgrades to the roads around there in the lake, and the stormwater system, drainage systems, potentially.
And you're talking about private roads or public roads?
Both. They've said both. I pointed out, I said, I don't know what this is going to fly with the state, the private roads, but they have said both, and they've used that word. So that's the word we used in the letter. That's what was to use. They wanted to use that phrase, private roads. I mean, I think
it does say
well
town roads and private roads, right?
Yes, right. I believe it does. Yeah.
And the issue gets really sticky around the private roads if the money comes to the town.
Yes. I know it gets sticky. Well, I don't know whether they know it gets sticky. It always comes up. That private public road thing always comes up down there, and that, as far as I can tell, that's always a problem there.
So I guess the question is there any harm in asking for this, fully understanding that if the money were made available, if by some quirk or whatever, somebody just said, yeah, let's give $350,000 to the town of Shutesbury, that it would have to be for town roads.
I would think that that's how the state would do it. I mean, this is their letter that I sort of messed it up a little bit, or changed a little bit, but that was the phrase they had in there. The private roads as well.
I guess. Oh.
I guess what could happen though is, thinking about it, the town road improvement could having a benefit to the private roads, even if they're not touched directly with the money, you know. It could have a benefit.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
By virtue of the town roads getting done.
Right.
Yeah, I guess my only concern is kind of when I read through this again today, I started thinking about, does this confuse the MVP process where we were already, you know, addressing
Some of that.
stormwater? Yeah. And that we applied specifically for that stormwater management. And I don't know if they talk to each other, and I don't know where we are in the MVP process. And I don't recall what the timing was in getting notification from them about the MVP awards.
I think it
Right.
was August or September.
Okay.
But the thing about the MVP and why it was so helpful, it's they clearly do support private and public. And that's why we were, to an extent. So that was a grant system that seemed to fit the situation. And I'm just uncertain what would happen if the $350,000 shows up.
Right, would it?
What do we do?
Why
Right.
not, Becky? That
Why
was sort
not?
of my question is, what do we have? Do we have anything to lose by virtue of asking for this? And it would be nice to know if there was some indication from somebody. So if you don't know if FERCog had broached this.
Well, Terry works for the state.
Oh,
So
okay.
he follows money flows, and he's probably seen other
Oh.
communities receive money
I
from.
see. Okay.
So that's
Yes, he
that's where
has.
he's coming from.
Okay.
So I guess if it shows up, then we get busy and
Yeah.
figure out how it can be used. And
Okay. Do you, I know Eric's seen the letter. Do you want Becky to put the letter up, Melissa, just so you can see?
Yeah, just for a quick glance. I'll take a quick glance. Yeah, if you don't mind. We got about a minute.
Okay, thank you.
45:50.
thanks, Melissa.
Speed read.
Oh, now I have it up twice. Okay.
Once is perfectly fine.
Okay, let me get this. Sorry. 1 second. Letter, action letter, and then. There we go.
Yep, just up a little bit, Becky. I don't know if that's the last.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. You're good.
So that first full paragraph on the second page, Melissa, is essentially the scope of the work.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so do I hear a motion to approve this letter as drafted?
I make a motion. We approve the letter for LWAC, and I didn't catch where it was headed.
It would actually, yeah, it goes, it's asking our representatives, our state senator and rep to put this in. And I would be the signature of the.
I make a motion that we approve this letter to send to our state representatives to put it into request at the state level.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye.
And we're at 5:51.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. So we have on the schedule a meeting with the planning board. I don't see any anybody here from the planning
They
board.
posted it. Let me just make sure. I'm gonna run down the hall and make sure they didn't cancel or anything. But I saw they were scheduled.
I have it up online, Becky. I can. Yep, it's here for 6:15.
6:15. So they
Oh,
had it.
6:15.
Oh,
Oh,
that
okay.
was mine.
Okay.
I moved everything around. That's right. Okay.
All right. So if everybody is that conflicts them with our ARPA requests, but maybe what we can do is do the annual appointments and we'll have the planning board and then have to maybe push off the ARPA request till just after the planning board. So I apologize to people who are here for ARPA that will probably be doing that a little bit later, 10 or 15 minutes later. So Melissa and Eric, are you okay with moving up the annual appointments?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay. So a couple of things around annual appointments. We, I think because we had so much discussion at our meeting, we neglected to approve the first page. Remember, we were doing all the appointments by page. And I think we got into a whole discussion during the first page and then kind of skipped to the second page. And so the first order of business is to go through that. And then a couple of things have come up since we had that meeting around appointments. A couple of, we deferred on at least one appointment, and then we got some correspondence regarding the appointment of another person. So I want to go through that. But for starters, if we could, and maybe could you put that page up, page 1 of the appointments?
I just sent it back out this afternoon, Becky.
Okay, that makes it easier. Okay. Kind of. Okay. There we go.
So the only question I had, Linda, you are you are retiring as of the middle of July, right?
Yes.
So we go ahead and do this as a full year
And
appointment?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then when she leaves, because she has also been so kind to say that if we need her to continue for a few hours a week after
Okay.
as we bridge to the new
Right.
person, she was willing to do that. So that.
Oh, okay. Okay,
that's
great.
important.
Were there any other ones on this page that warranted further discussion? Linda or Becky? Or is everything else pretty straightforward? I took a look at it. I didn't see anything else.
Yes, it's all good.
Okay. All right. So do I hear a motion to approve the page 1 of the Town of Shutesbury appointed officials, July 1, 2022 through June 30th, 2023?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Carol, aye. So the other 2 appointments, I just want to make sure there were no others.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Linda.
I'm going to raise my hand only because I wanted to, before you go too far, I wanted
Yep.
to ask Becky about the Farm and Forest Commission. Did you,
It was already appointed.
it's already appointed, so I just wanted to make sure that was all
So we're
set.
just leave that.
Okay, okay, thanks. Sorry for interrupting. I just,
No, that's okay. No
Yeah.
problem. All right, so we deferred action on the tree warden, and kind of at my, I initiated that, and since that time, Becky and I have had a meeting, and I wanted to recommend to the other members of the select board that we appoint Don Wakaluk if he's willing to serve as the tree warden for the next year. Questions?
No, I'm okay with that's great.
Yep.
Okay, is there a motion to appoint Don Wakaluk as the tree warden?
I'll make a motion that we appoint Don Wakaluk as a tree warden.
Second,
Any further discussion? And this is subject to his accepting. Any further discussion?
no,
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Make T. O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Carol, aye. The other issue, and I think everybody got emails. I know I didn't. I believe it was sent to all members of the select board. We got 2 letters from members, current members of the historical commission regarding the appointment of Janice Stone, which we did not do for renewal. She's currently on the historical commission. It was pointed out in the correspondence that we received that that their guidance, so the rules that they follow do not require a person to be a resident of town, and there was a real interest on the part of the current members of the historical commission to have Janice continue to serve, given her background and expertise. And I just wanted to see whether or not the select board wanted to reconsider that decision, or stick with our current reappointments, which did not include her.
I'm okay with her being on the commission. That's fine with me. And she does own land in town too, by the way. That's another little caveat. She's not a complete non-resident, so to speak.
Right.
Because she's not a legal resident, but she does have an interest in this town's business.
Becky, did you have a comment?
I've been trying to track down when the historical commission first did this, to my memory, back in the early 90s or mid 90s. And I think they took a vote. And I just want to, just as a comment, I think if it's to continue, maybe if I can come across that quote, a vote that was taken to sort of acknowledge it, I think it'd be important just to have a blanket policy. We accept membership of from any town is kind of a little broad and kind of concerning.
So was that done? I mean, we are the appointing authority, so we could choose not to appoint somebody.
Yeah.
But is that same language? Is it just the historical commission that has that, or are there other town boards
There
that?
are other town non-elected boards.
Okay,
It can't be true of any elected body, but an appointed body, if it's approved by all, everyone who has jurisdiction, then it can happen, like we have on Concom. And Janice is currently, well, she's not a member, but she's at every meeting of Concom.
I'm going to wait on any public comments for a minute or two here. So would it be fair to say that, or to suggest that the Historical Commission adopt, have clear language around non-residents, as should any other appointed committees? So if there's some that demonstrates some significant interest in the town, if we randomly had somebody from Boston who wanted to serve on our historical commission, that person, if the recommendation came forth, then that we would look for that they had some interest, so in Janice's case, she owns property here. So she's still a taxpayer, just is not residing in Shutesbury, and has a long history of having served on.
The case of the other time it happened. In the case of Concom, it started happening out of a shortage of other of town residents to serve on Concom.
So maybe that's the criteria, that first is they don't have sufficient number of town residents who are interested, that the person has some connection to the community, either via previous residency or ownership of property. Anything else that we would want to look for?
I think maybe if there's an expertise that the committee needs, definitely.
Yeah.
I think you alluded to it before, but if there's expertise.
That's a great suggestion, right? That they have expertise that's not currently available.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe recommending a policy with those three factors, and then I'll just finish my research on whether a vote is recommended or necessary.
Yeah, I think it would be good to update it. And I would say that for other town boards or committees, non-elected, that if there was a name put forth that these are the criteria that we as the appointing authority would be looking for.
Yeah. Because the committees that have a non-Shutesbury resident, even though they're a taxpayer, cannot serve on the finance committee by the bylaw. And so when you have statute or bylaws that prohibit, then it can't happen.
It does seem to me that some people, like the finance committee is a classic example. Not to belittle the historical commission at all. I'm not suggesting that, but it's not life or death what they're going to decide for Shutesbury, I would think. Whereas the finance committee, for example, could be. It's expensive to do things the way some people want to do, or whatever. There are expenses involved. That's all. I think some committees are more. What's the word? I don't know what the word is. I'm not suggesting they're less significant, but they're just not making decisions that are policies that will affect the town. I would think.
The day-to-day running of the town.
The nature of their work is just different.
That's right. Yeah.
The nature of the work is different. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. We have one comment from the public. Melissa and Eric, are you okay with taking a comment or two? Okay, just make it really brief.
We have 10 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, we might want to do something, move something else up too, because we're going to be backed up now. Okay, so Gail, did you want to add something?
Yes, as somebody who's trying to pull together policies so that we have some coherent set of policies town-wide, I would like to encourage the select board to establish not a policy only for the historical commission, but broaching these questions that you've brought up, a policy that would apply to all the committees, if that means a different set of criteria for certain kinds of policies, as you point out, Eric, or not, but have it in a way that there's a set of criteria which can be called on to make this decision rather than going back to minutes from decades ago and single case issues and so on.
Yeah, I think that's what I was suggesting by having those criteria. I'm not sure we need something different for each committee, but rather that we just,
I would say no, please.
yeah, that we have one sort of standard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the problem remains, Rita, that, you know, a lot of different committees have different statutes and have different bylaws.
Oh, no, but I think what we reference is if you have to abide by the statute that governs your committee. So this would not apply to the finance committee. This is just for committees that this does not conflict with the statutes under which they, or bylaws under which they currently operate.
And would not breach the construction of the committee that's defining the charge of the committee.
Is that, I mean, we can go
Yeah.
through this again next time if it makes sense, just to.
Feels more like a guideline and at the point of the select board doing some of the appointing for
Yeah.
most of the committees, right?
Yes,
Feels
yeah,
like a guideline for us.
right, and it
For
would
the other
be,
committees too, but for
yeah.
us to use as a test or something.
And it would be good for them to know. I think that it would be good
Yeah.
for the committees to know this is sort of our reference point, kind of what
Right.
we're looking at. Gail, I'm not gonna, if you have more comments, I'd ask you to submit them in writing.
Sure.
Because I think we'll not vote on this evening, but let's just do it the next time and when we have something written. Becky, does that make sense? And then we'll adopt it and then it will be taken care of. So yeah, I would suggest if anybody else has comments, please submit them in writing. Okay, I know we're jumping around a lot here tonight and I apologize to people who come kind of expecting we are waiting on we have the.
Can I interrupt you there? Are you going to vote on Janice or not?
Thank you.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Janice to the Historical Commission.
Okay.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye. Linda, we're gonna have to find somebody else who's like as quick on the draw as you are.
Really?
Keep us in line.
And so are you going to do the building committee or wait on that?
The which committee?
New building committee?
No, because we don't have people for it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we have
Have
some
some.
interest. We have
And
some
how-
interest, but we're not going to do any appointments. I think we want to wait till we have a critical mass.
Okay, and how about the ZBA?
Not tonight.
Okay.
We're almost there, but not tonight.
And it's 6:09, just as time check.
Okay, great, thank you. So we have 6:15 now with the planning board, and I'm just wondering if we can move up the recycling committee's request for textile and book recycling collection box. I see Meryl here from the recycling committee. I don't know if anybody else was showing up, but Melissa and Eric, if you're okay with us moving that up, I just got to cross things off.
Gary is planning to join us and he was gonna come on at 6:30, so I'd really prefer to wait till Gary's here.
Okay, I don't know that it warrants a whole lot of discussion. I mean, I think
Right. No, but just in,
yeah,
it
okay.
said 6:45 and he was coming at
Yeah.
6:30, so I'd like to wait for him if possible.
Okay, well, it's gonna be later. Because now we have to do ARPA and we have to do the planning board. So Becky, go ahead. You're on mute.
Gail Flychecker is here. Maybe we can get through part of one of the policies, one of the two that we're going to cover. I might ask Gail.
Sure, anytime. You distributed them to the select board?
Yes, yeah, but is this gonna take more than
5
5
2
minutes.
minutes? 2 minutes?
wait,
Okay,
sorry,
okay, you did.
Deacon's here and Jeff Lacy is here. So we just need one more person for a planning board quorum. 2 more people.
2 more, and they are expected.
Okay, let's go ahead and do the web committee then.
Both the policies were revised for the very simple reason of making them simpler, more clear, clarify them, and to bring them up to date to what actual practice is. So there's nothing that's really changed in terms of practice or description of the stance of the web committee on either fronts, on either the town announcements or the web policy as such. It was for clarification and accuracy.
Okay, I know I did go through it and it looked good. Do you want to, Becky, do you want to put it up just before we
Yeah.
vote?
Okay, let's see this. Town announcements first.
Sure.
It was not clear from the previous policy that was posted what someone would do if they wanted to make a town announcement. And this new policy has, here are the steps. You can do it one of 2 ways. Here's step 1, here's step 2. And here's how our holding of town announcements works. What's the purpose of town announcements is right off the bat.
Oops.
And the important point that the web committee is not in the business of writing town announcements.
Right.
Okay, good. I had gone through this. This looked great. And then do you want us to vote on these separately?
That would be better for the record. Yes, please.
Okay. All right, so do I hear a motion to approve the revised town announce policy?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion, questions for Gail or for the committee? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye. And then the web committee website.
You only see
Policy?
dots, Becky. See the very top of your screen where you have your dots. The
Sorry.
3 dots for close, expand, or there. There you go.
The previous statement of the policy had the website and the town announcement commingled, and this one cleans out the town announcement as a separate entity and has only the goals and purposes of the website policy. Again, cleaning up language and terminology and what the purpose of and the power, really, the scope of the web committee on the web presence.
Okay,
And a
great.
reminder to you all that there is on the web a list of all policies under town administration, governance, sorry. And there was an old numbering system, which was the date of original approval. So amending the date allegedly would change the date of the number of the approval. So I put them all by title rather than by policy number, which didn't make any sense to anybody anyway. They wouldn't look up by policy number. So the date that is after the policy will be that last amended or approved.
Great. Yeah, thank you for your work on this.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, it does.
So do I hear a motion to approve the new website policy statement?
Yes, I so moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye. Thank you, Gail, for your work on this.
And thank you for the approval.
We were at 6:16, Rita.
Okay, so does the planning board have a quorum?
Yes, they do.
Awesome.
Okay, Deacon, you want to call your,
Yes, I'll call the planning board to order. And we're here in joint session to reappoint our associate members. And this should be pretty easy. I can ask somebody to make a motion.
okay, that would be good.
Okay. Does somebody want to make a motion to approve Ashley Pycroft?
So moved.
Who was that, please?
Nathan.
Murphy.
Thank you.
And I didn't hear a second yet.
Robert Raymond seconds.
Okay. Any discussion? I'll call the
So-
planning board roll.
Okay,
Jeff,
You're muted, Jeff.
Aye.
Robert,
Aye.
Nathan,
Aye.
I'm an aye.
can we do the select board now?
Sure.
Melissa?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Carol, aye.
Okay, well, that was successful.
That was.
And do I hear a motion to reappoint Jake Messier as associate member of the planning board?
So moved.
Okay, I got Nathan and Jeff as a second.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? I'll call the roll. Nathan,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Robert,
Aye.
I'm an aye.
Okay, Melissa?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Carol,
Yeah.
aye.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
is that it?
God, I hope so.
Motion
Deacon-
adjourned.
Deacon, adjourn
Move.
yourselves.
Move to adjourn the planning board.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was Jeff.
Second.
Second, Nathan. I'll call the roll. Nathan,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Robert,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. This is good.
Okay, thank you,
Any other,
planning board.
I think this is the shortest planning board public meeting on record. So thanks, everyone.
Well, I think it's helpful to be utterly without controversy.
Helpful
Okay.
and rare.
good night.
Yeah.
Thanks very
Thank
much. You're
Thank
welcome
you.
to stay. Okay,
I'm going to sign
so,
out.
so Melissa, how are we doing on time? Because I think we're maybe gained a little bit of time.
6:19.
here. All right, great.
19. We've caught up.
All right, so we're not far off. All right, so why don't we go ahead and, so a little bit of background. I think Becky sent out an announcement to all town boards and committees, I don't know, a few weeks ago, Becky, and asked them to, if they had requests for the use of the ARPA funds, and just as a reminder to folks, this is the American Recovery Act money that the town is getting. And Becky's gonna just give us an overview of both what we're receiving and the requests that we've received to date. We had a number of boards and committees that have asked for the funds. And I think there's, also there's been discussion already around the school roof about using ARPA funds, and that happened at both the finance committee level and a couple of other places too, maybe capital planning. So what I was going to suggest that we do this evening is look at the requests that we have received, see if there's any additional information we need from any of the any of the boards or committees. Also, whether we feel in any of the instances where there has been a request, if the select board makes these decisions, but obviously, you know, we're operating with a lot of other committees that have some financial oversight. So what I'd like to do is, if we feel that either the capital planning committee or the finance committee should weigh in on any of these requests, what we would do is ask for them to weigh in before we make a final decision. So there's certainly at least one item that has a whole lot more urgency than some of the others. So I want to take that into account as we're thinking about timing. But I think it's good that we have as many requests in now. I think I've, you know, said at previous meetings, you know, what I heard at a regional select boards meeting back a few months ago was that there is some urgency for the town to commit these funds simply because they are being looked at to some clawback. And there's already been some attempts, you know, where a lot of money has been committed by the federal government. And there's certainly some people in Congress who want to say, well, that money is sitting out there. We need to claw it back to use for other purposes. So it kind of behooves us as a community to keep moving, and the funds, you know, we have a little bit of time, but I think, you know, and at the end of the day, this is not, it's a large amount of money, but if we are committing some for the school roof, that takes a big chunk out of what we're getting. So Becky, did you have a chance just to do a summary sheet to kind of show us where we are?
So it's a Excel spreadsheet. Can everyone see it?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. I'll just spread it so a little bit. So we have about $525,000. The select board did take a vote on spending 300,000 of it, which leaves our discussion really focusing in on $225,000 tonight or the other requests. So here's our list of requests that we have so far. And when you add them all up, there was one department that came in with a lot of requests. So we end up in the red. So we're not able to fund all of the requests as they stand now. But if you would like to go through them, I know there's more details that were available in the emails that came with them. But we had the moderator with one of our select board members, Eric Stocker, recommending a sound system. And I won't speak to these, Rita, unless you want me to. I know that others are here that could speak to some of these. Paul Lyons is here tonight. If you want him to speak to it, that'd be great.
Yeah, I guess if we have questions, I'm not going to ask people to make any sort of presentation about it. I think a lot of this is pretty straightforward. But I would say and we all got the emails.
Yeah.
Requests were sent to everybody, select board. They were distributed to select board members in writing, with the exception, I think, of the tent for the annual town meetings and the 2 tents for the elections. I don't believe we have anything in writing on those, but the others we did get something that was distributed to the select board members. So what I'd like to do is sort of step through these and see whether or not Eric or Melissa, you have any questions about any of these line items. And then if somebody's here from the from the committee or the person having submitted the request, then we will, we can ask them questions. Meryl, I see your hand up. We're not having like public discussion right now. I don't know if there's something, some reason. Okay, she's leaving her hand down. Okay, so the sound system and electronic voting, pretty self-explanatory.
The sound system, I would say that $2,000 figure, I mean, that's a tossed off, maybe I said it, but I mean, I don't know what, we don't have any estimates in our hands
Okay.
that I'm aware of.
Okay.
So, I mean, it could be 3,000. I don't know. I just don't know. I have no idea. I could get an estimate.
Yeah.
I'd be glad to do that, but.
So maybe what we do tonight is if there's agreement, consensus that this is something we would want to spend money on, that we ask the person who's submitted it to get us a more accurate number, because I think, you know, we don't have definite numbers on a lot of this. We just have sort of, you know, best guesses or best estimates at this point.
One question I'd ask too, I mean, what's the status of the school roof money? That is to say, are we sure that the state's, I mean, what should we be sure, you know, are they going to come up with any other money? That's all. And who knows? I'm probably not, but they haven't in the past, obviously, but
No,
how much do we know about that?
The grant application is alive and well. We've been going back and forth trying to find a date for the MSBA to come out to Shutesbury in August. And we won't have definite word from them till the end of September, beginning of October. Or it could be the end of October. Sometime by October is what they're saying.
So one question I would have is, if I'm not saying we should certainly, I would think, keep that powder dry, if you will, and then not spend it, but to actually allocate it, it seems to me if I was on the MS, you know, the building committee for the state, I'd be saying, hey, wait a minute, they've already got another source of money for this. Why are we giving them money?
Because they only pay 50%.
Okay.
And I don't believe the 300 will be more than 50%. And we're speaking about this number up here.
Yeah.
So I you know, my recommendation is that that's a hold. And then at some future point, it might not be a hold anymore, but that we have already approved that and put that on hold and not commit any of that money for any other purpose.
I think that's a good plan.
I agree.
Okay, so are folks feeling positive about looking at a sound system for the annual town meeting, and probably could be used for other things too? Given I think we've been borrowing the fire departments, right? And it's been, we've been limping along with the fire department system, which is not particularly good.
I think it's a good idea.
Yep.
Okay,
Me
so
too.
maybe we want to make an indication pending an estimate. And again, we take some of this up at a future meeting.
Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, I can get a couple estimates and see whatever. Just, I mean, I have no idea. I think 2,000 is probably a pretty good estimate, but I could easily believe it'd be more than that, just because things are always more than you think they are.
Okay, that's good. And we're not, you know, again, my recommendation is not to vote on this tonight, but then
Right.
bringing it back. So we have questions, we need the estimate. The electronic voting, I know Paul had, our town moderator had approached some folks in town, and I think there was discussion about having a process and having kind of a working group to decide if we wanted to move ahead with electronic voting. So I don't know. I see Paul is here. Paul, did you want to just make any comments about sort of the origins of the $10,000 and what your thinking is regarding timing? And
Sure. Well, the 10,000 is a figure that keeps popping up in other towns that have gone with electronic voting. And there's a lot of those towns using ARPA funds, in fact. And typically $10,000 is what most of them are ending up spending for the initial system, the ones that are buying it. There's also an option for renting it on a yearly basis, and that tends to come in at somewhere around $3,000 maybe in general. I think most towns have decided it's best to buy it themselves and have total control over it. Although they do usually also dedicate a much smaller amount of money for consultation each year, just in case anything goes wrong during the meetings. They have someone available to help out.
Can you explain a little bit about what it is? What physically are these devices?
Sure, it's basically a little clicker. It's like, think of it as a yes/no clicker. So everyone, when they sign in to town meeting, check in the town meeting, will be issued a clicker. All the votes are taken electronically. You know, all those in favor, please click yes. And the results are tabulated instantaneously, pretty much. Most towns have the results projected right up onto a screen so that voters can see the results of the votes. The numbers are tabulated instantly. So if you need a 2/3 vote, you know immediately. The votes are all anonymous, which is a big selling point in almost every town. People don't have to, you know, can't look around to see how their neighbors are voting. So it's basically a clicker, you know, to record your vote.
Rita, you are muted. I don't know if you intend to be.
thank you. No, I didn't. Paul, what do you see the process being in bringing this forth?
Well, when I had first
We'd
proposed,
need a town meeting vote, wouldn't we? Or not?
I think that would be wise to yes. I mean, it'd be a significant enough expense that it would be helpful, I think, to have maybe a special town meeting vote. But yeah, that's your decision. You know, when I first proposed this, I had proposed that a committee be established to really research it. Since then, so many other towns have done exactly that, that I think at the very least, the process could be really streamlined if we were going to set up a committee. You know, mostly for other towns, the decision is which of the 3 main vendors do we go with? And even that seems to be coming out, you know, coming down to one in particular. So I think a lot of the work of a subcommittee has already been done and duplicated in a number of towns by other towns. So at the very least, I think we could really streamline that and make that a very short process. I still think it's probably a good idea so that it's just not, you know, the select board and the moderator kind of making that decision.
So the town meeting vote would not be monetary then necessarily if we were taking money from the ARPA funds, right? It would be more that does there need to be a town meeting vote to accept electronic voting?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, again, I think it would be wise. I mean, it's a big change, even though virtually every town that has gone this route, you know, all the doubters have been supporters, have turned around and become supporters almost instantaneously after using it for the first time. So I think it'd be very popular and supported, but I still think, you know, my opinion is that it would still be wise to have, you know, voter approval to make this change, even if they don't have to approve the dollar amount.
Okay, so this is one that I would, yeah, we're probably, Becky, you're thinking we might have a a town meeting early winter, late fall, early winter, possibly.
Yep.
So I guess what we could do is put this on reserve pending annual town meeting
Yeah.
vote if Melissa and Eric agree that that we want to pursue this per Paul's recommendation.
I would personally think of all the things on this list, I would make it one of the lower priorities. And I might be one of those people that Paul's suggesting would sort of speak against it. And then the day it comes into being, say, that's the greatest thing ever. But I would think of all the other things on this list, this shouldn't be on it. That's what I would say. I would put it as a maybe at the best. That's my vote, personal feeling, but.
Melissa, do you have any?
I do like the idea. It seems like a good idea. But I'm a little bit with Eric, maybe not kind of high priority at the moment, see what other options come in if there's, or what our other feelings are with some of these others. And
Okay. So let's put a hold on this one and then kind of keep going. Okay. So the next request came in from the library for additional testing on lot 032. And I know Marianne has been undertaking some research and speaking to some licensed site professionals regarding the follow-up that we need to do follow-up on the finding at I can't remember, was it B9? Was the test pit that was done, which is the test pit at the back. It's not the library will be sited at the front of lot 032, but we as a community need to be concerned about that entire site, and it does have impact on the library in the sense that that whole parcel is owned by the town. It needs to be addressed, whether we're building a library, which we are now, whether or not we were going to be building a library at lot 032. So that's again, the back of the site where it was the Air Force, I believe, there was a pad and some sort of a tower, and there were some, findings, some oil residue. I'm sort of putting this in layperson's terms. And their DEP, we're under kind of DEP orders. I believe it has to be done by sort of around mid-January. And so the next step is to do some additional testing back there. And again, we have sort of, I think Marianne's waiting on something from Fuss and O'Neill. We have something from OTO, who did the last report, GZA, who's an environmental firm we have not used before. And this is all around testing. This is the one item where I felt I do feel there is some urgency. We now are approved for a library. We want to keep this process moving. We also have to, we're under DEP order. So that's sort of what I would like to consider this one as a high priority and get a little bit more information and maybe vote on it at our next meeting. So Eric, Melissa, any questions?
Oh, one question I have is whether or not, is 40,500 enough? I know we have one, that's the highest bid here, but if we're penciling in, so to speak, numbers, maybe we should put a number like 50,000, just saying, I don't know. I'm asking that question as much same thing.
Well, we don't have the Fuss and O'Neill number yet.
Right.
Marianne is here tonight. Do you have any indication? Do you have any sense from Fuss and O'Neill, sort of the range, or is it totally?
I don't know. I do expect a proposal from them tomorrow. So we don't, and I see that Becky has 3,000 in here for Jack Gemsek, and his was 3,000 plus another 20,000 for the actual site work. So I had him as 23,000. What we don't know is what will happen once we've done the next level of investigation. And this is really, it is all one site, but it would be really good to just get this out of the way before we start the design process. And so I started soliciting quotes just to kind of expedite this on behalf of the town. And we do need to know if we have a lot of historical data about the site and its use. And then we have, one very low reading of VOCs at B9. But it would be good to get this moving. So that's why I'm soliciting the quotes and I'm willing to, to work on getting the work up and running. The thing is, if you decided to say, set aside $50,000 and then I'm going to run the proposals by DEP and make sure that that the scope of services that the licensed site professionals recommend satisfies their requirements. And then, if we don't end up spending $50,000, it can always be spent on something else after the fact. This should be done quickly. Once we hire someone, I could see this being done by the end of the summer.
But once we have the Fuss and O'Neill number, then we will have definite numbers. If we didn't vote tonight, so if you get the Fuss and O'Neill number tomorrow, and then we have a number for that, both a number and your recommendation about who the contractor would be, then we could proceed. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess,
to be-
go ahead, Eric, I'm sorry.
Just to be clear, these numbers include not just as testing, but they include remediation of the problem. Am I correct about that?
No. So
No.
this would just be testing. And then so B9 was a former, military site. And I still think that if we, so the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers sort of disagrees with OTO's findings. And they don't think there's any true indication that there's a problem there. But I think, I think the town thinks that we need to do more testing back there, and DEP agrees that we need to do more investigation back there. So this would be us either confirming the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers opinion that there's not a problem, or this would be us defining what the level of contamination is, and then that would then make a recommendation about what kind of remediation was indicated.
So where would the money for the remediation come from? That isn't on this sheet, right? Or it's not?
Right.
No.
Well, and
Any
so that
thoughts on
might
that?
be a conversation that the town would then have with the Army Corps of Engineers. Or maybe you want to save all of this ARPA money for that until we know.
And the other question, not to be devil's advocate, what about the issues? I've heard them. I'm not in any way believing them. There are about the issues that there are issues about water at the actual library site. Is there no truth to that, or
Well,
what should we be thinking about that?
Right. So So I've asked, so we've done a lot of testing up on that front 5 acres. In 2012, Alan Weiss did soil borings and these low flow water sampling wells where he tested the groundwater. All of the wells, all of the private wells within 500 feet of the site were tested. And then we did 10 soil borings last summer, and 8 of them were up within that front 5 acres. So what the DEP recommended last summer was that we dig anywhere where we would be digging when we were putting in the library. And they recommended that we dig where the garage was and at the terminus of the floor drain. And then they recommended that we dig any place there had been a debris pile. So that was how we chose where we dug last summer. And that's why B9 was tested. So I had the equipment out there, and Becky was responsible for having the debris piles cleaned up. And we did a soil boring at where each of the debris piles was. So that was 3 locations in the woods. I think, and then 7 up on the front. One thing that was suggested was that that the library, where the library will be sited, is down gradient of B9. And we did test so I call them Alan Weiss's monitoring wells. No, not Alan Weiss. What's his name? Alan somebody. Werner, that's right.
Werner.
I call them Al Werner's monitoring wells. And we did test the groundwater there for PCBs, VOCs, and PFAS, and it was negative. But it's up to the licensed site professionals to tell us whether or not the library site being down gradient from B9 is an issue. OTO said that it wasn't. They said that gasoline or VOCs don't usually travel those distances. B9 is 1,300 feet from the road and 900 feet from the back, or the back edge of what I would consider the library property. And OTO said that VOCs don't usually travel more than 500 feet. Doing that digging around that bore would certainly indicate that. And we tested B9, and then B10 was about halfway between B9 and the back edge of what I consider to be the library property. And B10 didn't have VOCs or PCBs. And then none of the borings up in that front 5 acres had PCBs or VOCs.
Marianne, I'm going to stop you there just because we're getting into a whole other ball of wax here. Right. And I want to stay on target here with the, so what I would recommend for, or suggest, and Melissa and Eric, is that we agree that that this has some urgency and that we have a firm number for the next meeting recommendation. Is that rather than doing an up to figure at this meeting when we don't really have the, we don't know for sure, and there's such variation here, I think I'd feel more comfortable if we knew who we wanted and what it was going to cost.
I agree.
That's okay with me. Yep.
Okay. So does that work for you, Marianne?
Yeah.
I think Marianne answered my question about Lot 032, by the way.
And then some.
Well, that's fine. I'm just
going to get
all the things I never wanted to know or be talking about. So,
Melissa, I have to.
I'm giving you a time check. It's 6:51.
Yeah, and I have to step aside for 2 minutes to make an important phone call. So if you could just continue, I'm just going to mute myself and take myself off screen. and then come.
Are we coming back?
Rita will come back. So we are now on the fire department request for an exhaust fume for the fire station. I will share that I was a little concerned that this is a workplace safety issue, reading the proposal that Walter had put together, his notes on that. So that's kind of what I felt when I read it. I don't know what you thought about it, Eric.
No, I would agree with that.
Yeah, the diesel fumes are
Yeah.
in
they're bad.
my new workplace that we have to control them. So, but it made me think that there's a workplace safety issue for the firefighters if we don't move forward with this one. So this one would have, I think, a little bit of urgency or percolate somewhat to the top, you know, as a, that's where I feel anyway.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Any other discussion or questions? No? All right. The MLP for Gail, she is asking for three different items. One is the Gig Spire routers. I'm paraphrasing because I'm not a tech person. The equipment updates for the hut equipment, and then a new install for fiber to homes for the remaining 10% of people who do not have the internet to their households. I didn't really formulate too many thoughts on this one. Eric, did you have any that you thought about as you were reading this one?
Well, the one thought I had is that the MLP is clearly has the ability to generate money. So they have their own source of funding. I think I would say that, where other organizations here don't. I mean, I'm not quite sure what that means, but I guess I don't know enough about what exactly. I mean, I did read Gail's letter about or notice about it, but I was just a little unclear, like about installing fiber to the home for the remaining 10% of people and so forth. I mean, I'm a little unclear why we're paying for that. I couldn't quite get the logic there, but that was me.
And the one thing about that I didn't quite get was that they didn't know who wanted it and who didn't want out of those remaining 10%. There may be some who don't want it, you know, so.
Sorry, I'm back.
We were talking about the MLP. We had decided that Walter's request was a workplace safety issue with the fumes in the fire station and in the garage from the diesel machine.
Okay.
And then we're just on the MLP. And Eric had shared that they do have the opportunity or the ability to raise funds themselves for some of their projects, since they are independent in that way.
And I would, I also wondered in terms of installing the fiber to homes that, if there was so much grant money around, those households chose not to do it when we were doing it and paying for it. And now to come back and use this kind of precious dollars when they didn't choose to do it. Why should we be paying for it now? And if they really wanted it, is there any money available through the state or the feds for this broadband installation if people
Good
wanted
question.
it now?
Good
So
question.
yeah, I would say this is a low priority. Becky?
Oh, I was just going to say, I did read a little bit about there being broadband ARPA money available. And the second comment I had was they chose very deliberately to pay down the debt they had in, in 3 years or 2 years, 2 or 3 years. If they had spent, just taken a little more time in doing that before they reduced the rates, they could have done this themselves They could have installed the fiber to the remaining 10%. So it seems like I was quite surprised because they had originally emailed that as a department that could generate their own funds, they had no request because they knew other departments did not have the ability. And then we got this request.
Okay, so how do you want to handle this? I mean, we can just make this, we could just outright say no, or we could make this a very low priority. And after all is said and done with the, we could revisit this at some later point if we have still have ARPA funds. Let's say we get the, if we get
School
the
roof
state.
money.
Yeah, school roof money. If we get that money, will we need this money too, Becky? Will we need the $300,000, or did you say no?
Yes, no, I think we would. It would help because otherwise it would have to come from existing reserves or
Okay.
taxes. So
We're going to need it regardless.
either way,
Okay.
it could be very valuable to the town to do the project.
Right. Okay. All right. So I would say, you want to just put this on hold and
Yeah, I would say that.
take it under consideration later if there are funds remaining.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. And the Energy Committee didn't give us any numbers, so I think we have to get back to them and say what are the numbers before we can really talk about any of these items. The last couple have to do with tents. And it seems like we sort of, we're going to we needed a tent this last town meeting. This is an eligible cost. And for future elections, what have we been using? The Board of Health tents? Is that the reason why Grace wants her own tents, or? I mean, it seems like we have a lot of tents in town, and it's getting kind of intense.
Right.
And it gets to be like a storage problem. Next, we're going to need a storage unit to store all the tents. Is that really a critical need?
Well, the tent I'm requesting is just to pay for the rental
The
and
big tent,
the
right?
big tent. I'm just talking about the big tent.
Okay.
And buying it could, to have the crew to set it up and the machinery, I don't think it's worth.
Yeah,
the
no.
purchase, but it's
No.
pretty clear we'll probably be outdoors again next year just because of the fact people really love it outside. Grace's request is because the one tent we did have, we put up for the preschool town meeting and vote. And a storm came up before I got it down and ripped it to shreds. And so it would be helpful to have a tent in town hall. The Board of Health tents are all in their storage hut, and take some coordination to make them available. So Grace was feeling that if she had at least a couple of tents, we wouldn't have to rely on Mary Ann and for her tent when we need one. We use all of the Board of Health tents when we have annual town meeting already. And this would give us a little bit more flexibility because we had been using all of Mary Ann's tents and the Board of Health tents. Like you said, it's gotten intense.
Mary Ann, a quick comment is okay.
Just quickly, and some of them are actually like Mary Ann's personal property tents, not library tents. And Mary Ann's husband saw them being used at town meeting, and he now he knows, and they are no longer available to the town. It's a liability issue. And people were sitting under my tents at town meeting, a few weeks ago. So, so they, my own personal tents. So that I agree that there is need for more tents. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so again, we're not going to vote on this tonight, but it seems like the general direction is to go forward with these two. Is that Melissa and Eric, are you?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. They're
Okay.
small. They're small compared to the rest.
Yeah, so let's make sure this is on the agenda for the next meeting to see, again, just to go through, make a decision about what needs to be voted on at the next meeting, and based on that, what our balance is.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. And we are at the 7:02 mark.
Okay, and we're late. So we are on to the recycling committee. Again, thanks for your patience, Meryl and Gary. So this is a request I know Gary had put in a while back, and we had, I remember a discussion at one meeting about this and then didn't move forward. And the recycling committee is looking to locate a textile and book recycling collection box somewhere on town property. And I think the goal is to reduce, to get more recycling. It's income producing, not a whole lot of money, but it takes what might be put into the waste cycle and makes it income producing for us rather than us paying for it in trash hauling fees. So Gary, is there something I
Let
didn't?
me see if I can clarify that. In November, textiles will no longer be accepted at landfills and incinerators throughout the state. And so, we have to do something with them. Now, that regulation that's going to take effect has spawned a lot of companies who are interested in dealing with the textiles that people would normally throw away. And a lot of things can be done with them. Some of them can be repurposed. Some of them can be sold abroad. Some of them can even, even if they're torn or anything, can be repurposed into wiping cloths. Some of them can be made into insulation. So the company that contacted me, CMark, it has a relationship with Big Brothers Big Sisters, and so they donate a considerable amount of money to that organization. They set up a textile collection box in a town, and then they monitor it. They come by, and they're also, according to the person I talked to, very responsive. If it fills up more quickly than they expect it to, they'll come and and empty it. They pay the town 7 cents per pound of the textiles that are collected, which is not a lot of money, but it's, since we can't put it in the trash anymore, that's better than nothing, and it also keeps the textiles out of the waste stream. This company also does collect books. They have the potential, anyway, for putting up a book bin, and they repurpose those, send them around to different places throughout the world, actually. So if I encourage you, I think I sent when I first contacted the select board, I think I sent the URLs around for this company, but you might, if you're interested, you might just check into CMark and see what they do. CMRK, right? And they have a pretty good reputation. I've checked around in the recycling community. A lot of towns, especially smaller towns, have gone with this company for textile bins and maybe book bins. And I don't know whether you want to go with both bins at once, or do you want to do the textiles first, see how it goes, and then see if we want to do the book bin. The question is, if we wanted to have a bin, where would it go? I would suggest the highway department, because it's easy to get to. It's you know, easy to be seen. And, you know, that's, and, you know, but that might be an issue. I don't know. Anyway, that's where it is. If you want to do it, I'll contact CMARC and we can get the show on the road. And if you don't want to do it, there are other places where people can put their textiles in the area, including the Lever transfer station. So, you know, it's up to you.
Okay, thank you. Eric or Melissa, do you have any questions? Marianne, I see your hand. I'm just gonna let the select board.
No,
I think it's a great idea. We should do it, yeah.
Yeah, if they're not allowed in
When-
the trash, you know, that'll end up having no square. And if you make a collection place for people, they likely be used appropriately.
When you say containers, Gary, what are the containers? They're like a good,
They're like
a
all the bins
traditional
you-
Goodwill box kind of thing.
Yeah, you've like all the bins you've seen around. They're about the same size, and they, you know, like I say, they maintain them. I would be happy to make sure that they don't get overfilled, because if they get overfilled, people start just leaving stuff outside the bins, and that's a mess. And so, you know, we have to make sure that we, and it might take, you know, a couple of weeks, couple of months maybe, to see how they fill up, how long it takes for them to fill up, but they'll come and get them. They also, by the way, have, and this is not really for the town, it's individual, but they will come and pick up things like children's toys and other kinds of things from individual houses. So if you had a whole bunch of books, for example, that you needed to get rid of, you could put them in boxes and they'll come and pick them up. Now, all of that is not free. The home pickups aren't free, and they do charge for that. They don't charge, they actually give us money for what's put in the bins.
Marianne, I see your hand, and then Becky. Oops, you're muted, Marianne.
Sorry, I'm sorry about that. So people leave boxes of books at the library on a regular basis. And I used to have, you know, I've done all kinds of things with them over the years. And I did have a fairly easy thing that I've been doing for a while, but that no longer really works. So it would be helpful to the library to have a book collection bin in town, and as many, you know, so I would say at least twice a month, I have a surprise box of books left on a library doorstep. And then another twice a month, I get an email from somebody who asks first. And, you know, we don't have any place to store books. So I think a book bin would be something that the town would really appreciate having.
Okay, Becky?
I'm really concerned about the location of both bins. I don't believe there's any room at town hall to accommodate them. We're already crowded with the police parking and accommodating the flow of traffic. I don't know if Marianne would be willing to put the book bin at her, at the library somehow. And then the material one, I'm trying to imagine how we can fit it at the highway department, because we can't say yes to this question without having a location to put them. I've received other items like the digesting belly trash can that we ended up not having anywhere to put in town, that we got through the Green Communities grant, and I ended up having to relocate it to Amherst. So I just want to be sure we have an answer to that question, and I am pretty concerned about it going at the highway department. You've got big trucks pulling in and out, going in and out with the beautiful flowering berm has gotten more difficult even with the mirrors up. So I hope somebody has a really good idea for location.
I see
Yeah.
Meryl's hand as well, Rita.
Okay, Meryl, thank you.
Thanks. I thought putting the bins at the fire department, not on the side where the fire trucks go in, but on the other side. It's very visible spot and it's, it's low profile, so it may be an easy in out for people. A lot of driveway in front of the building, so it'd be very quick stop in and out. On a different note, I just want to ask, going back to the ARPA question, Gary, did you ever see that request on the ARPA? Because we never got, as far as I know, recycling committee never got the email about whether we had any items we were interested in adding to that list. I'm not saying that we do have anything, but we didn't even have a chance to really think about it and talk about it.
To
We-
what list, Meryl? I don't know.
So
what
the
you're talking
last conversation, when you came on, they were talking about using the ARPA funds for various things, and apparently an email or something was sent out to committees soliciting.
I don't,
needs. So
I don't recall getting.
our committee never got anything, so we weren't aware of this. So I'm just wondering how that process worked.
I thought I captured all the committees. I'll go back and check the list. Because I did.
And I
send
think
ones.
if you had something, we could give you the opportunity to add it because we're not, at the next select board meeting. We'll
Okay,
be.
Gary and I will talk it over and.
Okay.
Thank you. But the
We
fire
got-
department location
We
seemed to
we
be.
did get a tent. We got a tent.
Yeah. Go ahead, Becky.
It was with our own money.
The fire station, my concern there is, well, currently the spot that Meryl has suggested is where the school bus was until the trees fell on it. I will talk to the fire department folks and get their input just to be sure, because the biggest problem they have is if cars are in the way when they have an emergency. So it just has to be a really clear path that they take, and maybe with signage it could work. But could we hear back from Mary Ann about if she would want the book bin over there, or if she would prefer it at the fire station if possible?
The library parking area is so small. And I just, I've thought about getting one of those book bins, or the elementary schools down in Amherst have clothing donation bins. And I mean, it's just so small, and sometimes there are cars parked all over the place. But what about Lot 032? It seems like that these things, if they were empty, they could be moved pretty easily. And it's gonna be at least, a year and a half before we break ground, right? And there's a driveway there. So, and they just get put on top of the ground. I don't think they'd be in the way. I think we could put them so they weren't in the way of anything.
Gary, do you know if they would move them if we?
Oh, sure.
Once
I mean,
construction started?
They'll bring them in and put them wherever we want. And then if, I will check and make sure, check with my contact at CMARC and find out if, once they put them in a place, if they'd be willing to move them, but I'm sure they would. Once they're empty.
And then it could be that when we do the library design, we just, incorporate them into the parking lot, or where, or something.
Like a landing pad for them or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The real issue is that they're easy to get to, and that they're visible so that people know that they're there. And because if you put them behind town hall, for example, a lot of people wouldn't even know that they're there. And it's not a good place anyway, because there's just not a lot of room there. I was thinking the highway department over on that west side, there's considerable amount of room there. In fact, when I first moved to town in 1983, there was a great big box for newspapers, and that was recycling in 1983. You know, I think if we can find a place, we'll appreciate having this option in town, and we might even make a few bucks.
I'd ask them if they can go on grass, you know,
Sure.
or,
Yeah.
you know, because if they have to be on pavement, Lot 032 doesn't work.
I can check that, but I'm pretty sure they can be anywhere.
We don't have any, there's no permitting or any other kind of issues, right? With just citing these boxes?
That's my understanding. Yeah.
Just checking.
Just where do we want to put them? Yeah.
Put them in a wetland.
No, thank you. Okay, Melissa, Eric, do you guys have a preference for, I mean, I think we all, or at least I'm in agreement that we should move forward with this.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
It sounded to me that either the fire department or Lot 032 was probably the most viable locations. So.
Well, you know what I'll do, if you agree that we should explore it further, I'll talk to Taylor, who's my contact at CMAR, have her come out and look around and, you know, see what she thinks.
Okay, that sounds good. And then you can, if you would be willing to come back to our next meeting, and
sure,
then we could vote on it.
I'll share the information.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
And Becky, in the meantime, maybe if you want to talk to the fire department too, and just give that kind of feedback to Gary and to Meryl about their take, and everybody can take a look at sort of what would make sense. But that sounds great, Gary.
Okay.
So you got our seal of approval, but we'll
all right. We'll move ahead then and see where we go.
Okay.
Oh,
great.
one more thing. Having this bin, especially the textile bin, will actually give us more points towards getting a DEP grant every year. So
great.
You know, we might make a few bucks that way too. So, you know.
Okay, good. Well, thank you for your patience, and please, if you have something that you I'm sorry you didn't get the ARPA notification, but if you have something that you think would be appropriate for kind of a one-time, not regular operating expenses, but a one-time cost that the recycling committee has, let us know, because we will be looking at this at our next meeting.
We'll talk it over.
Okay, great. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay.
It is 7:19, Rita.
Thank you. Not too far behind.
No.
All right, so we dealt with the web committee and recycling. So FERCog inspection program contract. Assume is this an annual contract that we sign with FERCog for building inspection?
Yes, it is.
All right, is there anything unusual about it, Becky? And
no, it's the amount, I believe it's still $4,500, and it's the annual contract under the same terms.
And do they collect all the fees that when you get a building permit? And that
yes. Yes.
Okay. So nothing comes back to the town. All the fees go to FERCog. And we're doing this like base pay to them.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So who is that? Is that signed by all three members of the select board, or is it just the chair?
All three.
Okay. All right. Good to know.
And it's more than one inspector, right? It's a plumbing inspector, the electrical, you know, isn't it?
It's all the different.
No, we've never used plumbing or electric. We have our own plumbing and electric inspector.
Okay. Good.
This is just the building inspector.
But it is, I'm sorry, it is a 3-year contract. I think I said 1.
Okay.
It is a 3-year contract up, and they went up to $4,600 from 45.
So is it $4,600 a year for the next 3 years?
Yes.
So do I hear a motion to approve the FERCog inspection program contract for the next 3 years at a cost of $4,600 a year?
So moved.
Second,
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye. Okay, the police union Teamsters 404 contract.
Right, this has been an unusual couple of years. This contract was started 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And we've had quite a bit of turnover during that time in our police department. And so the things were agreed on wages back by the committee, and those wages were used, so we don't have to pay retroactively. The wage rate was a 3% increase with the Teamsters contract, just as it had been for the prior, I think 7 contracts, or maybe 9. So this contract will run through June 30th of 2024. And we are starting the fiscal, I guess I was off. There's still going to be 1 more year left after the close of this fiscal year, but we will be starting negotiations on that date in June 30 of 2023. So we have a little bit of time left on the contract, but it's unusually slow to come before the select board. The major changes were changing the rate of pay for details from $48 to $52. There was a small change. The new initiative was to give an incentive bonus to officers that complete their their bachelor's degree and their master's. They would receive $1,000 and then $2,500, but only a one-time bonus. This is not built into their base. Those are the big changes in the contract over the prior contract.
And who did the negotiating on this, Becky?
It was Melissa. It was Melissa and Bob
George.
Rose and George Arbonite.
So is there anything in there that's retroactive then? If we're signing this, it goes back to July of 2020. What have people been paid for detail work? Have they been getting the $52?
No, they haven't been getting that. And we can't go retroactively on that.
And I don't think they've been doing too many details anyway. I mean, we're gonna have to ask Kristen that, but I don't think we've had too many in town.
We have had details, but not like when we were doing the fiber.
Yeah. That's was the comparison.
The fiber project, we had 4 details a week with multiple people in them. And now we might have 1 or 2 people having details every couple of weeks. But it's summer, so it's really, it always picks up in the summertime.
But when we do the work down at Lake Wyola, there'll probably be details there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and they will use the new contracted rate.
Melissa, anything to add that you think we should be
No, I think
alert to?
Becky ran through it. It was pretty. I think the biggest change, Becky, was the education piece.
Yeah,
wasn't it? That was the most dramatic change. Was adding the education piece for officers. But I think she touched everything. You know, it's not a dramatic change in contract.
No, it was kept to the minimum. We had a person we hadn't worked with negotiating it as the Teamsters agent, Brian Donovan. So it was a new experience. I'm not, things that weren't voted, I can't go into detail about, so it'll, I think it was, overall, there appears to be pretty, a lot of satisfaction from the officers with the contract.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Melissa, for that
Yeah, no, you're
explanation.
welcome.
So do I hear a motion to approve the police union Teamsters Local 404 contract for, it was July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2024? Is that
Yes.
correct?
So moved.
Second,
Okay, any further discussion?
No.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Make peace, O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye.
Do we all three sign it? I can't remember. We never, I never looked at the
Yes,
last pages.
I'm
We're going through it.
pretty sure it is, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so you need all of us in tomorrow to sign these contracts?
Yes, that would be wonderful if you can.
If you can leave it tonight, Becky, I'll grab it in the morning on my way out. I'll sign it.
How about if you can't sign it until Friday? I have to leave town early in the morning, so I
Okay,
think
well,
probably before your,
the irony here is I'm looking at the contract, there's 2 places for select board members. So Eric, you could be off the hook.
all right,
There
beautiful.
should be 3, but somehow this is the new version from the Teamsters. I'll ask them to add back the 3rd member, but if you can't sign it till Friday, we can ship it out as soon as Melissa and Rita sign it.
Okay, great.
That'll be a quorum. Great, thank you.
Thanks. Town administrator updates.
Well, the best news, I'm going to start with the best thing because this has created quite a bit of uncertainty whether or not remote meetings were going to expire on July 15th and leaving us stranded. Grace just handed off a Senate approves pandemic policy extensions bill. And within that bill is the extension of remote meetings for 18 months. So that's very good news. The House still needs to pass it. There's a lot of pressure on the House to get that done before July 15th. So if they can get that done, that'll be wonderful news.
And we assume the governor will sign it.
Yeah. I guess he could do what he wants.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're hoping
Great.
he signs it. So that's the best news of the night. I also just received an email from Michael Morris, a superintendent of the Amherst Regional Schools, finally taking action on the guardrails concept of the assessment methodology. He's asking for a working group on this subject. And for that working group, he's calling for up to 3 people from the town to be part of that working group. And so I'm wondering if there's anyone on the select board. This is going to be starting in the summer, hopefully ending in the summer, but you need to be available over the remaining summer months.
During the day or after, do you think?
I've seen them done all different times, so probably,
Okay.
I don't know, they don't say. But I can ask when I submit any names or questions, I can ask them if they would. So if you wanted to say you could do it if it was during the day or
That's obviously not my thing.
Right. That's not your word.
being
The opposite.
a working lady, you know.
So they said up to 3, right? So we could
Yeah.
do 2. So we assume somebody from the finance committee
Yeah,
would be part of it and somebody from the school committee.
It's a good suggestion.
it's possible.
I would rather not commit to doing it. So,
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna be
Between
gone
my
at least some of the end of in August, so.
Yeah. So,
Well, Becky, find out if it's in the evening. If they're going to meet in the evening, then I'll toss my hat in. But you know, would have to be meeting in the evening or after 4:30.
after 4:30, you could be,
Yeah, because I leave work at 3:30. So as long as I have an hour, just in case I hit traffic. Still
and
finding my way around.
Steve has just checked in. Maybe he has
Hi, Jim.
knowledge of this subject matter. No, are you volunteering?
I like how it's getting handed off to the school committee, but my guess is that when we talked about this last year with the school committee, that it was supposed to be just a pure school committee thing. So I'm gonna guess it's gonna be at night because there aren't very many school committee members that can do it during the day.
Okay. Thanks, Steve.
Great. So potentially Melissa. Good likelihood. And the finance committee is going to be meeting next week. So they can,
come up with the name.
yeah.
And what is the school committee meeting soon?
Steve?
We
Wait.
don't meet till August. Woo!
Wow.
Hmm.
Okay.
Well,
So
maybe
we'll
you could,
start with,
yeah. Start with that
Yeah.
and see where you get to.
and if you wanted me to do it, I can do it too. If you want a third person, but it's up to you.
Okay, why don't you check with them and then can you just get back to us if you need to have the names before our next meeting?
Okay.
That makes sense. Okay. All right. I know you had the administrative secretary hiring process, Becky.
Yeah,
What's that?
I'm needing to renew efforts. It was advertised in the newspaper. And I've want to put it, it's not up on the website yet with the vote taking place last week that stalled. So I'll get it up on the website. I've only had one inquiry to date. So if anyone knows of anyone who's interested, please send them our way. My
Becky,
way.
can you tell me what the hourly rate was? Because when it was published and I saw it, it was a big ad in the paper, but it didn't have an hourly rate.
It's 1852 to 2038, I think.
$20.38.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me double check. Yeah, 1852 to 2038. That's right.
Okay. And it's a benefited position because it's 25 hours a
Yes.
week?
Yeah. It's would be ideal for someone.
Okay, just the right someone. And the highway superintendent?
He still is, he's waiting on another, I don't have an update. I'm still waiting on his decision, final decision about his last day. And
So is he definitely retiring this year?
no, that's the problem. He's
I see.
second guessing himself, and I gave him till the 10th of July to make a final decision. Just because we need to know, but if he's going to stay, I don't want to rush him out the door. But we do, he does need to make a decision, because if it's no, we need to hire.
Right. Because then his end date would be sometime this fall.
Yeah, he's talking October. So end of September into October.
Okay. The STAM annual meeting, that small town administrators
Yes,
meeting that you attended recently?
yes.
Learned
We got some good updates on the coming budget and the surpluses, which is always wonderful words to hear when they're talking about the state budget. So the state, contrary to everything we were anticipating 2 years ago, is doing extremely well and has a very large rainy day fund. And sales tax is much higher than anticipated as well. The main speaker at the event was a woman who took on the topic of violence in the workplace. And there was a lot of recognition that behavior, dealing with the public, employees who have to deal with the public are encountering more extreme situations than they have in prior years. I think with so many people being cooped up, it's made a big difference in what the possibilities of what can happen in the workplace. And there's more focus on making sure employees have the support they need, really focusing, she was really focusing on de-escalation of situations and getting mentoring for that. Because in a number of instances, it was people, the employee themselves, when they encounter someone who is angry or frustrated, a small question, just if you just keep questioning them, they blow up. People will blow up. And so it was interesting to know that that's being acknowledged more statewide, that as an issue, and just want to keep, make sure our employees feel supported and that they communicate situations that they encounter. And if we need to get training for de-escalation, I'm hoping the select board will support that. I don't think the problems are that severe here, but you never know what can happen. And the final thing is that the market was held on, the farmer's market was on a Friday night this week. And I just want to make sure that the select board would be okay if in future markets, it'll go back to Saturday. But I want to put out town announcements as I used to about 7 or 8 years ago, just notifying the public about the market and what's available. And I just wanted to clear that with the select board. It had been supported by the select board in the past when the market was much larger. And I just wanted, before doing that, to find out what your thoughts were on that subject.
Is there anything in the new policy that we adopted, the town announced policy that we adopted earlier this evening, that precludes us from continuing to use town announce about the market?
I don't think so, because the farmers market is sponsored by the Farm and Forestry Committee. So it's not just an independent thing, it's part of a group.
I'm comfortable, Melissa.
Yeah, I'm
Eric?
comfortable.
Yeah.
Sponsored by a town committee. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you need a vote on that, or?
I guess so. That would probably make it more official.
Okay, do I hear a motion to support the use of town announce for the Shutesbury Farmers Market?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye.
And now the final, most important thing, the fire chief update. On Thursday, there is going to be a meeting. I think is it this Thursday? Yes,
Yeah.
It's scheduled for this Thursday. Sorry, I started again. Of the select board, and you will be hosting the one candidate that is being brought forward by the fire chief hiring committee and asking questions and opening the questions up to the public that is expected to attend. At the fire chief hiring committee's last meeting on Thursday, they recommended to appoint, they recommended the appointment of Lenny Zerwanka as the Shutesbury Fire Chief and are bringing that name forward to the select board.
Can I
That's
ask a question?
Sure.
Not about, well, about that, it's related. So we all saw the email from the fire department about being included in that process. I guess it's, the recommendation makes that a little bit more void because of the person, but I just want to make sure that if we go forward with a outside candidate, that they do have time to meet with them. It seemed that they would like to.
I think that, Melissa, I think the issue was they did have representation. They had the representation that was recommended by Chief Tibbetts after he asked all of his firefighters and no one stepped forward. And then he went to George Davies, someone who had been on the department for almost 2 decades.
Yep,
And
I know
George
George.
Davies came forward and did represent them. I think the person
Okay.
who wrote the email didn't know George, so he was he didn't realize that they were represented.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that issue was pretty much taken off the table.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
It appeared that
think
they had
I-
that information with them. So
I think our thought was that with sort of the open meeting coming up this Thursday, that they could ask any questions they wanted. They would see the process. It's all very transparent. And I would, so that's that. I think that answers Melissa's concern in that regard a little bit anyway. And the other thing is just we as a select board, we should just come up with questions. If we have questions, well, where we should be asking them.
will we
So-
see the resume and stuff, Becky, the
Oh, yeah,
materials?
I'll get it out tonight.
When is the meeting for that, our next one, or
It's
is there a
Thursday
special one? Thursday.
at 5 o'clock.
5, Thursday at 5.
Did we get any notice about that? Because I didn't get any notice. This is the first I'm hearing about it.
And I apologize, Rita. I think with your being on vacation, I wasn't communicating well enough.
Is
I
that-
think
does
it's
that
okay,
work?
but I have to double check.
Yeah.
All right. I will let you know in the morning.
Can someone reach out once you know if Rita can make it and if it's solidified? Can someone reach out to the firefighters and let them know they can attend?
They already are aware.
They know? Okay.
So this is, tell me again what's happening, what the.
It was originally, the hope of the group was to have at least two candidates come forward. And the hope was to have it at a select board meeting where the 2 candidates would be interviewed. And the hiring committee had asked that Paul Lyons moderate that meeting. And then there was going to be a final meeting after that. But when on Thursday, they only came up with, they determined they should only bring forward 1 candidate. It got shortened and the second meeting got dropped.
So did you say the public is invited to this too? Is that,
Yes.
how is notice going?
It's an open meeting.
Yeah, and it was posted last week.
Okay. Was it sent out on town announce or?
It hasn't been sent out on town announce. I will get that done too. It was.
Becky, I think are we past the 48-hour notice though?
Right, because it says.
No, it's already there. I'm only sending out a town announce.
Uh-oh.
Sending out a town announce to let the public know.
And I'm sorry, I think part of it, I was working with Eric and all select board members need to know, and you start, and because I should have made sure, and with Rita being on.
I was
busy-
barely on vacation, but I had a lot of
Right.
family here.
Yeah, you had-
I wouldn't call it a
I was trying
vacation.
to give you some vacation.
It was
I
anything but.
apologize.
Otherwise busy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
One question I had is, so will we, the select board, want to vote at that meeting as to whether or not we accept that recommendation, or will that be, we should put that on a future?
It can be
Meeting, I
your
would think.
decision. I mean, it's, if you have questions that aren't answered, you always, at the meeting, if you have questions that aren't answered, you make sure it's clear that you're not ready to make a decision, and then pending getting further information, and you wouldn't want to make the decision that night because we still have to do the background check. and the
Right. Oh,
reference.
that's a good point.
So no, the select board won't be voting that night.
Right.
And who
Lenny's
negotiates
already, yeah.
Who negotiates the salary?
The select board member, a
Finance committee and personnel.
member, and a personnel committee member. I was trying to figure out if we could just use the hiring committee, but it needs to be those three.
So that committee then needs to be designated after.
Does
Who's going to
the,
do the negotiation?
right. We have to figure that out, because the hiring committee has personnel board and select board. Is there any fire? I'm sorry, is there any?
George.
George is on it, right?
You said George Davies. You said
George
fire.
Jim Walton is on it, so you have finance, so you could just take the three finance, personnel board, and select board
Select board members.
representatives are on there and make them the negotiating team. I think they're the most well-versed.
That doesn't create a conflict of interest because they know the other five candidates that applied, does it? Does that taint that negotiation in any way? Just asking the question. I'm not in one side or another, but does that?
I don't think so, but it could. I guess it could.
I don't know. I'm just asking the question just to make sure
it's a
we're on
good
the up and
question.
up. Yeah.
Well, the other candidates no longer are part of the picture.
No, but the information is known. That's right. They're no longer a part of the picture, but they know the information. They may know whatever is in their resume or their documents that they supplied. Might that taint any negotiation with Lenny if Lenny is chosen?
You could end up
Whoever
with people, even if we didn't.
No, I know, I understand that. I'm just asking the question to
Yeah.
make
so-
sure we think about it so that when we go forward, if it's questioned, we've actually thought about it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not in any
don't
either
think it should
direction or
matter.
not, just about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, just a question. All right.
Okay, anything else, Becky?
No, that was the last one.
All righty, so we meet again in 2 weeks. What is that date? Let's
I
see.
have my calendar right
The
here.
19th
19th.
and 2 days and 2 weeks. So the 7th and then the 19th.
Becky, will that be in person or Zoom? Because there's that expiration date on the Zoom meetings that Grace
We're
mentioned.
hoping it'll be still on Zoom because if the House votes, but we'll know.
All right.
before
So it
the-
could be in
Moving on.
person.
Could be hybrid.
If they
hybrid,
don't.
right?
Yeah, I guess.
In
As long as one-
terms of,
As long as, it could be hybrid as long as there's a quorum of select board in the room,
Okay.
right?
in
'Cause
terms of future meetings, we just figure every other Tuesday, basically. That's if we make, I can make up a sheet, or I think Melissa made it up last year.
Yeah,
but
I'll make up a sheet and send it out to everybody. So we just have like target dates.
Target dates. I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah. We all know that's not really true.
No.
Good. Okay,
have-
that's
we have
great. You do
suggested
it, that's
dates.
good. Suggested dates. There we go.
Suggested dates. I didn't mean target. I meant suggested.
All right.
Okay, great. So do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Yes, so, second.
All right.
I beat you.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Make peace, O'Neill. Aye.
Docker, aye.
Farrell, aye. All right, good night, everybody.
All right,
Thanks.
bye.
Night,
Bye-bye.
night all.
Bye.